Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon on your end. How's everyone doing? Uh, Thank you Rahul sir for joining us and काफी sizable number of audience है यहाँ पे. So it's good to see everyone. We hope to see you on the camera after a few minutes so that we just greet each other. Hello everyone. Hello everybody. I'll just quickly write a hello in the chat itself. Everyone. Great. Guys, if you could kindly let us know of where you're from and what you're kindly pursuing or what you're currently doing as your job as well, so that we kind of know the demographic of how, of what everyone is working on basically. So if we can just, if you can just simply write it in the chat, just come up.
Yeah, it'll be great for me also for the workshop to know the audience better. That's what the workshop is all about, actually.
Yeah. So also what we'll do is we'll first get to know the audience and then I'll start with the introduction and then we'll move forward. Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right. Cool, guys. Just drop in. I know it's 3 p.m. and I know it's a Sunday, but still, I mean, we guys can be awake, right? You have shown the motivation to come on this workshop. So I'm glad you have done that. So just kindly, yeah, okay. So we have Mandira as well. From Kolkata. Hello, Mandira. Nice to meet you. We have Kusum from Ahmedabad. Hi, nice to meet you, Kusum. Cool. And also, guys, if I can sort of have a follow-up here as well, what was kind of your motivation of what you're looking forward to during this workshop? So that will also kind of gives us a glimpse of what people are expecting out of this workshop. Because I know Rahul sir has curated everything even from his view, but then we'll also get to know that what everyone is expecting overall. Okay, cool. We have mostly designers, sir. We have people from other fields as well, but yeah.
Okay.
Have designers.
Actually, it's not cool that I'm blinded to the chat. So you guys get to see all the fun.
Yeah, so you should also be able to see the chat. If you just tap on the chat section on the top, and then you'll also be able to see it.
On the chat section,
yeah,
I am just getting to see Sana.
Okay.
And that's about. Oh, no. Now it's flowing. It's flowing.
It should be refreshing like in a couple of seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Fatima. A lot of people from Kolkata. Perfect.
So there are. I can see Archana saying that looking forward to transitioning into a UI UX career. So we need to have conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We need to have
like
conversations.
one way of just having the audience. Yeah. Yeah, Prachi, I'll just unmute you. Yeah, you can go ahead, Prachi.
Hey everyone, good afternoon.
How are you?
Prachi, UI designer from Ahmedabad. So first up, thanks so much for organizing these amazing workshops. I've been attending quite a few since few weeks. I just quickly wanted to highlight that somehow I'm not able to type in the chat. So can you just reach out the settings?
Yeah, I'll just check the settings. And if you could be kind enough to just once rejoin as well. It happens sometimes. If you could kindly do that, and then I'll. Okay. Cool. I'll check once and definitely let you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Some people from Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people from Kolkata. Damini from Delhi.
Yes, so as I mentioned, we also have the community is now expanded, right? So we are going to have people from abroad, and we also have audiences from Africa as well. So I would definitely, motivate them to also join in on the conversation which is going to happen, because that is something because as you mentioned, right, user personas is something which is going to be holistic, which is going to be used by almost every kind of a designer, and is like the base of everything, right? So that is something wherein everyone can be involved in this conversation. That is where I would just request everyone to just hop in, and we'll start off in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and I was also wondering at this stage, since you're waiting, I was also wondering how many of the people who've participants who've come in have watched any of the movies that were suggested. I mean, it was not compulsory, it was suggestion, but then as the workshop progresses, you will understand why we are working with cinema and and characters. But yeah, have any of you watch any of these five movies that we were suggested?
I quickly drop a yes and if you have or you haven't. I have. I've personally watched Bajrangi Bhaijaan to an extent. I'll just write that.
We're
Yeah.
getting this kind of a slow kind of response.
People are slowly waking up, sir. You have to give them time.
I was so scared that I will not wake up. That's why I didn't sleep. Um,
You also have like a coffee handy with you right now.
yeah. But
Okay,
I
great.
feel like I need more of it, but it's okay.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
All right. I think we'll be able to start now. Okay, English to English is also there. Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Uh, so yes, sir. I think we'll start for the attendees are ready. So yeah, cool. So what I do is I'll first, so we have a lot of members who have been with us previously and who have newly joined us. So I'd like to describe what Sanskrit does overall in a brief, and then we'll definitely continue with all the other things within the workshop. So first of all, once again, a huge thank you for everyone who's attending and to Rahul sir for providing the time on a weekend, specifically on a Sunday, for everyone to just join in and share his knowledge among the audience. And yeah, so with Sanskriti, we have been associated with a lot of things which we do for the community. And our main goal, which kind of aligns with Rahul's vision as well, is to make India as a design hub right now, because it is still known kind of as a tech hub, but then design is something which is currently coming up and it has come up in the recent years, but then it can go to another greater level. And that is something which you're all pursuing towards. And for this, we kind of take all sorts of initiatives, which includes the events which we do, the workshops which we currently are hosting and will be hosting up until our very major initiative, which includes the designathon. So this designathon is going to be unique in terms of this going to be the world's largest offline designathon. I'll give you a brief of how it is going to look. So here we have it. And now this designathon is going to take place next year, and this is going to be in India, in 10 cities, offline. And the purpose of this is anyone can join. Anyone from working professionals who are kind of working towards leveling up their skills, to college students who are currently pursuing, whether they are in any year, first year, second year, or at the end of their careers in the college life. And also for the students who are in the 11th and 12th and who want to kind of think about how to join design and what their career path might be. So this is curated for them. We have all sorts of things present here, and it'd be great if guys could just look at the website which we have for Sanskriti. There is all sorts of descriptions of what the designathon is going to be about. So that is where you can get all the details from, and you can quickly scan the QR here. I'll also display it at the end so that you guys know what I'm talking about overall. And the second part, which I think Rahul was also excited about, was the passport here. So this is going to be like a unique passport for the designers. And this is going to be your gateway into not only Sanskriti, but I think all the other communities which are going to be there. So this is going to be a unique passport. I think the light is too much, but you're not able to see my credentials. But this is going to be like your unique identity. And we'll have all the stamps of the mentors here, as you are able to see, right? This is going to be, Rahul, you're also going to be here soon enough. And this is something which everyone is going to have. And this will be a memorabilia of the events which you have attended and all the memories which you have made here, along with all the learnings. This is something which is worth knowing, and very honest, not just because it is something which we have curated, but something which is going to help the audience in general. So these were the like two things I wanted to describe about Sanskriti. And Yeah, I think I'll just move on to introducing our mentor for today, which is Mr. Rahul sir. Rahul sir, once again, good evening to you. How are you doing, sir, first of all?
Good evening, guys. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, it reminds me about my COVID period classes, like I told you.
Yeah.
And I haven't taken an online workshop for years.
Okay.
So yeah, there I am.
All right, great. Perfect. So yeah, so Rahul sir, I think to summarize your career of the past 20 years is going to be a hard task for me. So I'll just briefly describe you, and I would request you to kind of give your introduction itself to the audience so that they know that okay, we are dealing with a mentor who is actually serious about their profession and who actually wants to give out their knowledge to everyone involved, right? Because we have seen mentors who actually do a lot of things, but then there are mentors who are actually serious about just providing the knowledge in general and seeing how it applies to the practical world. And that is where you come in. So this is something which I would just like you to, give out the knowledge. Uh, Brief introduction. I think you are uh, just to give a brief introduction, you are the HOD of the MDiS program at UID. So we have a couple of students from UID as well here, and I think they'll
I
be able
am no
to
longer with UID. You have a older
the
bio
older one.
in front of you.
Yeah, you were though, right?
Yeah,
So
I
I think
was,
a
I
lot of people
was,
might,
I
yeah,
was.
a lot of people would be recognizing you. But you have an AI system which I'm interested in, which you are currently curating, right, with the Indian culture. So if you could kind of give us a brief about that itself, because that is something which Sanskrit also kind of involves in terms of having like a culturally driven organic community overall, right? So kind of, just touch upon that as well. That'd be great for us.
Yeah, that's excellent because it kind of connects to today's workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the when the chat GPT led generative AI revolution came in about 3 years ago,
Right.
uh, to be very honest, I was appalled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of hated it. I hated the UI of ChatGPT, um, and I hated the fact that it was giving you information that was written in a language that sounded very much the same,
Mm-hmm.
and but a language that we would normally not write in, and and I hated the fact that, like when you do a Google search, it gives you so many options,
Mm-hmm.
but you raise a similar query to ChatGPT, it just kind of gives you a summary of findings and, and presents it as facts. And I realized that, my ecology, which is basically my clients and my students, were not ready for the disruption.
Mm-hmm.
And and they would maybe just normally dive into the disruption. I mean, that was my first worry because the kind of the way it was being marketed and pitched by influencers across the world, there was no way somebody would not dive into it. But at the same time, I knew that it would do my immediate ecology more harm than good. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to create a buffer. I realized that one of the big problems with AI is that it doesn't really understand context.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to see whether I can kind of come between that tech and and my people. Like I'm not using the word users here,
Mm-hmm.
and and create something that could be more contextual. So I've been kind of experimenting with subject specific classroom boards, company specific uh, bots, especially targeted for small businessmen, because I know that India is a country of small businessmen, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they have their own shortfalls. They normally work in small pyramidal systems with bottlenecks. They cannot hire. They are ambitious, but they cannot hire like the corporates. So that's a pain point. And I come from Calcutta.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a city of small businessmen, right? So I understood that very well, and but I realized that if they don't have support, then they will not be able to compete, you
Right.
know, and they would be eaten up. So I started building AI bots also to kind of bring in assistance and supports to small businessmen to understand their own business, forecast their own business, understand, manage their own business on their fingertips as much as possible.
Hmm.
Um, so that's been my journey. It's a conscious idea to not do it as a startup, but to kind of bootstrap it. So bootstrapping is a slower, painful process. Um, and I'm kind of happy doing that.
Hmm.
I'm kind of happy doing that because I wear multiple hats,
Hmm.
and I work across various communities, and I have a deep passion for teaching. So I'm not a full-time entrepreneur who will do a startup and, launch an AI product. I'm not into that game. So yeah, that's about the AI bots.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll tell more later. But yeah, I mean, over the last 20 years, um, I'm just plugging in a question that you were
Yeah.
supposed to ask, but instead of asking you later, you know, I uh, when we started off, design was obviously a much smaller field, right?
Hmm.
I knew about NID midway through my own graduation, so that is how
Okay.
insulated design was, you know.
Hmm. Right.
And because there was no internet, right? So there was no the flow of information or admission notices would only come out as newspaper releases and things like that, right?
Right.
Um, so though I studied in a creative environment, I studied in the faculty fine arts in Baroda. So it gave me a very good exposure to all the ecology of creativity, right? And I quickly realized that I was not meant for a wholesale, a typical kind of a fine art activity. I had a more outreach tendency, you know. So very quickly I found myself designing publications, and that time the UI UX world was also not there. The terminologies were not in place. I mean, it was in
Hmm.
place globally, but in India, people were not using it. Like I made my
Right.
first wireframes in say 2006 when nobody was using the word wireframes, right?
Understood.
Huh. So we were just making India's first online magazine of contemporary art, and I realized that I needed to sketch it out. I need how to explain to my developer, right?
Hmm.
And that time there was no Figma. We would create components. All the components would be created in Photoshop layers,
Yeah.
and painstakingly, employed. So it was fun and fascinating, but I was also I did a lot of, actually, I learned UX through doing exhibitions
Okay.
because, I'll be very honest with you, because exhibitions is a place where you get to actually observe how people are reacting and interacting with your design.
Right.
you know you set it up and it lasts for a few days, and often you are there and you actually observe people's behavior life. You understand what is working, what is not working. And I began this prototyping testing thing very early in my life. I was infamous for changing my own exhibitions midway.
Hmm.
Infamous
Got it.
because it just led to more client costs, led to more manpower requirements. But that was the way I kind of started working. And yeah, and then since then it's been a long journey. If I start talking about it, the workshop period will get over. So but what happened was, in the course of time, I got back. In between, I had taken a detour. I was doing other things. I was doing a lot of large scale public events, and that's also a
Okay.
huge UX challenge, right? Because there are so many stakeholders, there are so many kind of people, target audience gaps. There are sponsors, there are visitors, there are seed finders. It's a UX event is actually a very, very complex
Hmm.
UX game.
Understood.
And and so and actually, from events, when I come into designing applications and things like that, the world seems much simpler and much more controlled. um, and because there are certain things much more clearly defined, in the digital world,
Hmm.
which is much harder to define in the offline world. But yeah, and then I came back. So after, say, 2014, 15, I was not actually designing too much in the digital domain. I was doing more public events. And then when I joined UID in 2019, that's when I again came back to the digital ecology. But the prime trigger was, of course, the COVID epidemic, because that's the time you could see the world shifting to the digital world. And I
Hmm.
realized that if I have to keep pace, if my design has to keep pace, not only in terms of reaching out to the people, but also in terms of being able to create, you know. So yeah, that's been the kind of a journey.
Hmm.
Um, and increasingly, I've become a more systems person, in the sense I kind of like to zoom out and understand larger areas, inside which
Yeah.
the problems are happening. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, sir. And as you mentioned that you have delved into all these kinds of systems and all these kinds of methods, right? I just have a simple question for you. Why user personas for today then?
Yeah, because because my students hate it, because young designers hate it,
Hmm.
you know,
How many of you kind of
and
agree? Just drop it in the chat.
like I know it's the truth. I know that they feel that they are doing it. They have, so the why is missing.
Hmm.
I mean, they don't hate it because they are stupid. They don't hate it because they are not empathetic people. They just hate it because they don't know why it's done. It's a part of the formula,
Hmm.
right? So they want to, I mean, look at it from a young person's point of view. That on one hand, there is something called Figma, which is a very
Right.
cool, shiny tool, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
And on one hand, there is your design process, right?
Right. Hmm.
Which is messy, untidy,
Right.
paper,
Fair enough.
analog, right? For
Fair
a
enough.
young mind, what would be more attractive? Obviously, the Figma shiny tool, right? Uh, and you want to play with it, you want to jump into it, and you
Hmm.
want to just start designing, you know.
Fair.
And this actually, I think, happens in India more because of two reasons. One is a lot of our in company, like young designers working in the industry, are actually coming in from largely IT backgrounds.
Hmm.
Apart from the
Yeah.
design school educated people are coming
Yeah.
from largely IT backgrounds, and so they have not adequately been grounded in design thinking processes, and they
Hmm.
don't understand why. And
Right.
we a lot of in India, we still a very aesthetic, very arty country, so we like creating beautiful things. We love craft. One of the things, one of the moment my students start designing on Figma, I'll be standing on the head and say, stop doing craft work. ऐसे
Okay.
सुंदर सुंदर
Hmm.
चीजें मत बनाओ.
Hmm.
For me, just without knowing anything, just starting to make something beautiful on Figma is nothing but craft work. You
Hmm.
know,
True.
it's digital craft, it's urban craft, but still craft. You know,
Right.
and but in India we're really good at it because at home the ecology of creation is very much there, and the country is also such that traditions like Rangoli and all are very much in our houses. you know. So it comes naturally for
Hmm.
us. And
Right.
also design is something, as a thought process, is growing. So between that, uh, engineering input into design and the kind of growing the art and craft ecology of India, somewhere the design thinking mindset gets squeezed out,
Hmm.
you know. And for me, if you take the mindset out, you've taken the designer out.
Right. Right.
And
Hmm.
we grew up to, and all some of our batchmates were like that, like we had animators who really didn't want to understand storytelling because Flash thana,
Hmm.
um, and they could create animations on Flash, and they were good with Flash, and they loved it. And when we were talking to them about storytelling, narratives, hero's journey, concepts, game theory, they were like, "These are all bakwas." You know, ये real world में काम नहीं आता. And then one day, the the big five decided to stop the Flash plugin,
Okay. Hmm.
right? Lakhs lost jobs overnight,
Hmm.
because they were
Understood.
not really
Hmm.
animators. They were just tool
Yeah, they're just using
operators.
stool operators. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want my students and young designers to be tool operators. I,
Perfect.
I want them to be real designers. And so
Mm-hmm.
as we start the workshop, and I already started the workshop, so I can, I don't know who clapped, but thanks for it. Um, this talking about user personas is, I was trying to create a meme. I ran out of time. You have this Marx meme, and you kind of reveal what's really
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, yeah. Got it, got it,
So
got
I
it.
was trying to create a meme where the on the outside it's written user personas, but when you reveal it, it's actually context. You
Hmm.
know. So
Yeah.
my provocation to everybody here is that
Mm-hmm.
forget the word user personas. Can you design without context? Is design
No,
possible without context? Right?
no, not at all. Yeah.
No. And that's it. And that's where the entire story ends for me. Right? As
Hmm.
we
Right.
understand, when the moment we understand that design is not possible without context, then we have to find context. We have to build
Fair enough.
context. Right? And user persona is a very handy tool to build context. But
Hmm.
in my life, I had not user persona to मैंने बाद में encounter किया.
Hmm.
Around 2006, 2007, and for a year, I was working in Bollywood, and
Okay.
I was going through meeting a lot of script writers and young directors.
Right.
I was working in a production house,
Hmm.
and there I learned that before writing a script for a movie, you have to write something called a character sketch.
Yeah. Hmm.
And today when I look back, the character sketch is nothing but the user persona,
Persona. Yeah. Fair enough.
you know, and it's a character sketch that will decide how the character behaves across the movie, how the character will react to an incident happening to him or her in the movie.
Hmm.
Right. So, and why will the character? Because as a audience, if I'm seeing somebody reacting on screen and I don't understand why the person is reacting that way, I lose touch, I disconnect.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is why movies flop. That is why movies succeed. Movies
Hmm.
succeed because not because of budgets, right? Movies succeed because of connections. Like, it could be a stupid connection,
Hmm.
but as long as the connection is there. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, if it was just mm, budgets and star cast, then a movie like Thugs of Hindustan would never
Would have.
flop,
Yeah.
right? So
Fair enough.
we
Fair enough.
have enough living proofs. So that's what I
Hmm.
kind of chose these 5 movies that I suggested to the audience, participants also, like Bajrangi Bhaijaan is obviously a big blockbuster movie. At the same time, there is a Lunchbox. So there is this entire spectrum of cinema. But each of these movies have been successful in connecting with the audience.
Hmm.
And that is what I wanted to, and that is why I'm referring back to the character sketch because now if a filmmaker cannot start a movie without a character sketch, can a designer start a design without a persona?
Not ideally.
It's
No. Yeah.
another provocation, right?
Yeah. Fair.
um, so that's a quick answer to your question, actually, why personas, and it could actually have been much cooler. I mean, if we had a offsite workshop. I mean, sometimes Sandskriti
Hmm.
should conduct offsite workshops because,
Yeah.
um, I mean, that way we can actually build more tangible results. You know, but yeah, maybe I can just dive into my presentation. This is maybe a good excuse to dive into
Yeah.
my presentation, right?
Yeah.
Hmm?
For sure, sir.
And
Yeah.
just hang. Let me open the file and then share because I
Yeah.
don't I don't want to waste so much time on the presentation, but it's still important in some way.
Yeah. Guys, I would encourage everyone to just, kind of interact with each other in the audience as well, and with Raul sir and everyone here. And if you have any questions, just drop it in the Q&A or in the chat. Om and I will be picking those up because I think when Raul sir will be presenting, he won't be able to see the questions. So we'll be picking those up and then directing it to him. You can also raise your
Yeah,
hand. That's also fine. Yeah.
just give me a second.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
There we are.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Share present mode, then this. Yeah,
Yes, so we are able to see it.
can
Please
everybody
make,
see?
yeah. Yeah, we are able to see it. Perfect. Guys, if it is visible for everyone, just say yes and we'll start.
Okay, guys, you
Yeah.
see the meme on this corner. This is something that even if we by the end of the workshop, even if we kind of spend 5 minutes talking about it, because there are many people here who want to be UI UX designers. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I just had a talk in like I was a part of a panel in Kolkata about AI and UX. So there also a lot of this discussion happens. So we will if people are interested in side chat after as we wind up the workshop, we should take it up.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, so some of it I have said as I was introducing the workshop to you right now, right? So let's try to get into this word. What is context? You know, um, so this workshop, yes, we will be building user personas in a fun way as much as possible. But what we will actually try to understand through the workshop is this word context. Okay,
Mm.
because okay, let me proceed so that we run the presentation. So one of the things that actually informs leads to bad UX is stereotypes. And as human beings, we like to take things for granted. We like to assume that this is how in the staff room you will hear teachers talking, saying that, oh, students, they will behave like this. If you go to the canteen, you will have students talking, saying, oh, teachers, they behave like this. We have stereotypes about how bosses are, and our imagination of the world around us is actually filled with stereotypes. And why personas are important is that if you really don't create personas truthfully, then we start designing not for human beings, but we start designing for stereotypes. You know, and yeah, everybody with me on this because I'm just asking because I'm blinded.
Yeah.
And unwittingly, and it's actually nobody's fault. It's the way the ecosystem grew. It's
Mm-hmm.
the way technology grew. Unwittingly, and the demand for speed, and the industry's demand for speed. That is a very important thing. And young designers would also need maybe a discussion about how to kind of hold on to design and design process and yet meet the industry's requirement for speed.
Yeah.
So we began to come up with this kind of very generic iconization of human beings, you know, and this kind of iconization of human beings goes back to reinforcing the idea of stereotypes. In fact, they go on and reflect or we kind of impose our stereotype notions and create this kind of very generic icons, right? But
Mm.
guys, one of the things you should know, and a lot of you are maybe students or young designers who are building their projects and portfolios, so you kind of do the whole design process yourself. But when you're working in the team, you don't do that, right? The
Mm.
person who is doing user research is not the person who is creating the Figma mockups. I
Yeah.
mean, and that is something very important for you to understand, because that once you understand that, then you will realize what you need to deliver, right? So at the end of it, when the user research team crunches all their research and designs these personas and kind of hands them over to a kind of early prototyping team,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there's a purpose for that. I mean, the prototyping team could have just started making wireframes without the personas, right? So
Yeah.
why are the personas there? The personas are there to actually trigger off empathy points, to help the prototyping team to understand the context and the real micro and the larger macro context of the users, right? Because that's
Right.
the only way the design will seamlessly fit into their lives. Now, the problem with the generic stereotype is that if I'm doing the whole design process myself and just to fill up, like, a requirement, I have made user personas, I use this kind of generic stereotypes and create this user personas and put it in my design process. For me, that works maybe. But is it really adding anything to you? Like, suppose you were not the person looking at the user personas, but another design team was looking at the user personas. Would
Mm.
they be able to identify with the user? Would they be able to trigger off their problems? So that was also my one of my these are my early queries actually through which I got deeper and deeper into UX.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is also another approach that you will see in a lot of students and young designers um, user personas, especially template-based user personas, people who are just using, say, Adobe Firefly or Canva to
Mm-hmm.
create user personas. Then you get this very kind of clean, good-looking, but very sanitized images, you know. And and in today's world, 10 years ago, these images had a different kind of semantics. But today's world, when you can go to a website like, this person does not exist, and just create any human face, a real looking human face that you want. This kind of typical persona where the background. See, so now you look at the image carefully and understand what's wrong with the image, right? What do we really want to know about the people? We want to know about their context and their backgrounds, right? And those
Mm.
are the two things that are actually visually blurred here.
Right.
Literally, they are in the background. They are literally off focus. So if the context is off focus, guys, what's the persona about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then I'm I'm still in my provocation mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I'm moving. I'm pushing the provocation mode. I'm
Mm.
saying that um, what if we get actually a little bit more creative and actually try to see, like, if you look at the top image,
Mm.
it you can actually feel the person.
Mm.
You can
Right.
actually almost smell the ground on which the person walks on. You know,
Yeah.
if you see the image below, you can understand the psychography of the person,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
You can possibly get insights into sexuality. You can possibly get insights into earning potential, lifestyle, so many things, you know. Uh, so what do you the question to the participants in today's workshop is, what do you really want your personas to convey? The once you know that you are creating the persona, not because it's a part of the design process, but because you need to create context for the design that you're working on. And because without context, there is no design, right?
Yeah.
And how do you create a human context? So suppose you don't create a user persona. Never make a user persona in your life. Create something else. Find out, discover a better format. But the context has to be there, right? It has to reflect the context.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so let's get back to context. So often
Mm-hmm.
we start we start designing things. Uh,
That have the
yeah,
context.
through our set of assumptions, and more than assumptions, we start designing things through what we want to build. Because we all designers are creators. So there is an urge to create, right? So the play blocks on the left hand side that you see here, where my cursor is right now, it's a
Mm-hmm.
great building act. You created something which could be interactive, it could, you know, but is it in the context of what your user needs at the moment? Because if that is not in the context of what the user needs in your moment, you could have the world's best creation and nobody will use it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And and then with this coming back, coming back to
Mm-hmm.
because the personas actually, apart from giving context, help us to see the world from another point of view. You
Right.
know, I'm not using, mind you, uh, most people will say that uh, user personas will result in is kind of in the first step towards generating empathy. You look at the personas, you do your empathy mapping, and then only you can move forward. The reason I'm not using the word empathy strongly in this presentation interaction is that I realize that that is another misunderstood word, and in a 2 hour setup I can disentangle one of the major misunderstood words, maybe not two, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you will understand what I mean by empathy as we kind of actually start, you know, uh, getting into a making stage.
Right.
Right now, I will stop this presentation for a bit, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
show you something else. I want to show you a series of personas um, I made for a tool. Let me share again.
Yeah.
Guys, are you with me? Am I telling you too many things too fast? Are, are, is the work, are you guys traveling with me? If you want me to stop at any moment and revisit certain things, you can just write on the chat.
Yeah.
And okay, share and window. Yeah. So this is a slightly different kind of user persona, but so I must tell you that when I was leading a team, we were consulting at tech at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Um, and I can't name the project, but we were kind of developing personas for the project, and I was kind of leading a team at that point of time. And I don't want to kind of defame or deride any designers, so I'm not showing examples, but a- all of you know that user personas have this very standard grids, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is
Yeah.
pain point, a little bit of information about the person, aspiration, and motivation, and a little bit here and there. There are 4 or 5 points, and then I kind of created this template, and I filled out the first couple of templates for my team, and which had like a lot of information. And they were like, why do we need this information? But
Mm-hmm.
once I first created the template, there was a resistance saying that why do we need this amount of information? But once I kind of created, once I filled in the template and I did my first research, and also you see, just look at the kind of image I have used. I've been trying to use images um, in my personas that actually
Mm-hmm.
communicate more about the individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mood and everything else. Anyway, one step at a time. Let me not run.
Okay.
So you will see that there are certain certain points that are added here uh, which are not like, say, a mapping of sexuality, for example, mapping of caste, for example, you know, where because when we were designing for an Indian education system with various kinds of social accessibility issues, um, and for a new generation that was kind of coming out of closets in many ways, the standard demographic mapping of the persona had to change, right? And then I realized that this, and later in the presentation will become more clear for you. But I realized that this pain point, that one feature that we have in all standard personas, and the personas are supposed to help us, really understand the pain points. I realized that the pain points were not good enough. I needed to kind of expand the pain points, because if I was launching a product or a service in the market right now, you know, um, it whether I will be there were like so I introduced two more categories to break down the pain points to make the product or the service hit hit the need at that particular moment. So I started
Hmm.
mapping needs and expectations into long term, and needs and expectations into contextually short term. So if you look at this Rishabh's example, then you'll see in the long term he needs a lot of things, you know. And normally when we kind of understand pain points and we start designing for the person, we start mapping out on the long term needs, you know. So there's a need for conversations, mentoring, experience. There's a need to know about platforms. There is a need to, and he wants to explore sustainability. He wants more studio time and so many things, because it's the zone of aspirations, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at short term, that's when it becomes more specific, right?
Hmm.
Then suddenly you realize that he needs a platform. It's tangible. You can create a platform. You cannot actually create conversations. All these up things here are a little bit above. It's a little bit airy fairy, you know, and
Hmm.
you don't know where to hit, where to drive in the solution. What will be the solution that Rishabh will use tomorrow if he just encounters it? You know,
Yeah.
for that, this is more useful. So this
Got
gives
it.
you a better picture. This gives you a better picture of what to design for Rishabh right now, right now. You
Hmm.
know, and of course there are other categories that I introduced, which I kind of felt it compulsory because it was. I mean, this category called technology use is now becoming more and more common as we are creating more and more products for pure digital use. But personally, I felt that I needed to map learning preferences because this was a work for EduTech. But similarly, since then, if I'm doing something for a travel thing, then I will just replace the word learning by, and remember this is important because this is one of the workshop tasks, I will just simply replace the word learning by,
Hmm.
say, travel preferences or hospitality preferences, or if it
Hmm.
is about food, I will talk about food preferences. But contextual sector-wide preferences, because most of the other things are maybe not exactly sector-wise directly, to give you product building knowledge, you know. So this preferences section was through which the design team could actually generate direct product building knowledge. Uh, then often we see that we have users, we've designed the right product for them, or what we think is the right product for them, and they're not using it. And actually, the first example of that I actually got was in very early visit, 2008, 2009. I was traveling to Nagaland at a time when government wanted to get rid of those traditional Naga wooden traditional Naga kind of what do you call kitchens, where they use wood and chulas. Actually, they have this large chulas, almost as big as half a room, and the government was giving them this free electric chulas, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody was using it. You know,
Right.
and the reasons why people were not using it were very strange. It was not that they didn't like the technology or there was no electricity or none of these common reasons that you would actually find or you would think of. The reasons why they were not using it because it was an electrical product, it had to be in the side of a house. It had to be against a wall from where an electrical connection came from. And they traditionally used their chula as also their dining space. So chula had to be in the center of the house. There was no way the chula can move to the side of the house, you know. So then I realized that behaviors and beliefs can come between the user using or not using the perfect solution that has been designed for them, right? So then over the course of my work since then,
Mm.
this mapping of behaviors and beliefs has become an intrinsic part of my context building work, right? I needed to show you this. uh, Remember this preference section. That is one section that you will not see in the next 2 3 slides that I'm going to show you as we
Mm-hmm.
are now moving into our workshop zone.
Yeah.
So
So Prachi had a small question, if I can bring it up now.
yeah, please.
Yeah. So Prachi, if you're here, if you just raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll just read out the question. So Prachi's question is, I created my first and last persona 2 years back during my portfolio creation period. It included pretty much everything, including the standard details, which includes the demographic, needs, expectation, pain points, and the quote. I'm looking at the extended persona for an ed tech company, ed tech platform. Now, can you tell us which level of detailing is apt so that too much isn't too distracting while designing in terms of an ed tech platform?
Okay.
Yeah.
um See, Prachi, can we just hold the question right now? It's a very important question, but maybe we will auto answer the question in the workshop series because, in the question by itself is perfect, except in the last line framing of the question, when you say that there is too much, what is too much? You
Hmm.
know, so it's a weird question because when I speak to senior designers, designing like who are at the who are maybe the UX masters, they will never frame it that way. For them, there is no information, any amount of information is too less.
Hmm.
So there is no question of it being too much. So when
Hmm.
it comes to when a participant frames it that way, I understand there is an underlying concern. So we will try to, instead of answering it in that way, we'll try to better to try to untangle the concern, right? And
Yeah,
see if that helps. And even if after that, if Prachi has things to ask, we can delve into that. But
definitely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm now moving back to the PPT,
Hmm.
um, because that way the workshop will move forward.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. Yeah, yeah. So Prachi, have a look, okay? Um, because as I'm showing this, I'm also giving out the exercise. Okay. Um, when I asked at the beginning when I asked at the beginning of the workshop, how many of you have watched any of the movies that I suggested that you guys watch? I didn't get a response, so I really don't know. But I'm talking to a young audience, so I'm sure that you watched movies in your life and you
Hmm.
like watching movies. And and I'll tell you why I gave this 5 movies. And one of the reasons were that I tried to once a movie storytelling is successful, then it's already a proof that it has succeeded in creating empathy with the audience. That means the audience has already has an empathy with the characters. you know.
Right.
I mean, that is where that's a backdoor, and that's way to kind of speed up, because we were doing an online workshop in for 2 hours workshop. So we are not doing research of any kind, right? We are not doing a
Mm-hmm.
primary research. We are not doing any kind of research, but we are trying to understand the core of user personas, and user personas at the end of it, guys, is a work of semi-fiction, right? Because we crunch large amount of data and essentialize it into 4 or 5 forms, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's a similar process that happens even when we're making a character sketch for a movie. When you want to show a particular kind of a character, you can bring together many characters and create that one character that comes in the movie. So there's a lot of process similarities, though the end results in industries are very different. Um, okay, so coming back here, if you see that thing is on your screen right now, you will see the preference section is missing.
Hmm.
Okay, all the other sections are there. The preference section is missing right now. That's the preference section is something that you guys will have to generate.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly show you the 3 personas I quickly made this morning. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Taking one character. Ideally, if this was not a workshop, if this was an offline workshop and I could gamify a little bit, then I would just immediately say that you cannot design a persona on this character which I've already designed on. You can choose any other character of the movie to
Yeah.
kind of, because these are kind of exemplars. So, so here, uh, many of you might be knowing the character. Many of you might be kind of familiar. I just want you to in this next 2 slides, I want you to focus on 2 things. Okay. Um, needs and needs and expect. Look at the difference between these 3 things. There's a pain point, right? The pain point says struggles with societal expectations and regards to marriage and sexual orientation, and feels the pressure to conform. So that is a pain
Mm-hmm.
point, right? It's
Right.
like your shoe is not fitting you and it's causing you pain. So that's literally a pain point.
Mm-hmm.
But the pain point cannot directly give you a solution, because there might be 5 people whose shoes are pinching them, but they would need different kinds of solutions because they are different people. They have different preferences. They have different, say, lifestyles and choices, right? So anyway, so the long term, like Rishabh had a very, again, very kind of an abstract long term need. The long term needs will always come up with words which are like this, like acceptance and
Mm-hmm.
understanding. You know, uh, now this acceptance and understanding are difficult metaphors for a designer to work with. Like, how do I generate a user solution that will make you more understood to this world, right? I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but it's kind of abstract, right? But if you look at the short-term needs and expectations, then you will see that him looking for a safe space to express himself. That is something you can design. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't quickly design something that will give uh, Shardul acceptance and understanding, but you can design something that will give Shardul a safe space and connection, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those are possible, right? But then that's not enough. That's not enough, because how can Shardul use what you've given, right? So a part of that answer to that because comes from these two, right? Sorry, source of
Yeah.
income and technology use. That will give you a fair idea about what can Shardul use, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to address his short-term requirements, right? Now, once I know that this is what I'm trying to design for Shardul, I might design I might design a community. I might design an application. I
Yeah.
might I might design a service. You know, there could be things that I can design for Sharpwell. But once I come to that idea, or sometimes can come with a client brief that we need to design this kind of this medium led solutions. That's when the idea of preference comes in. Like Shadu uses a smartphone. Everybody uses a smartphone, but everybody has different ways of using a smartphone.
Hmm.
Some people actually don't use social media on their smartphones. Some people use only social media on their smartphones, right? Uh, some people don't want to look at smartphones after dinner, don't want to look at the screen, don't want to
Right.
look at the phone first thing in the morning, right? Some people are with the phone all day. So technology use is giving me an indicator, indicating as to what he's technologically comfortable with, but it's still not giving me his preference with that medium. Are you getting me? So I need more context. I'm a very that way, Prachi. I'm a very hungry and a very greedy person. I have an infinite need for more context. You know,
Hmm.
because I actually have this utopia of creating stuff that actually matches people's needs.
Hmm.
Kind of as seamlessly as possible. Uh, the, and similarly, you know, if you look at say Sulochana and look at so when you see needs and expectations, long term and motivations, they will somewhere align. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, these two slides were created just before the workshop, so not particularly well formatted.
Hmm.
But suppose we can, if I draw an arrow to connect them, because motivations are also a slightly a long-term game, right? But now with Sulochana, it becomes interesting because Shardul has an income. So if you design a solution for it and he needs to put in money to be able to use the solution, you can commodify the solution for Shardul right at the beginning because Shardul can maybe afford it because he's financially stable. He has his own earning. He has a financial independence. And if it is definitely meeting his short-term needs, then you would expect that to kind of manufacture, kind of lead into kind of a transaction and a relationship. But
Yeah.
with Sulochana, she's not she's not financially independent yet. Financial independence is her hope. It's something that she wants to achieve. So today, if you devise a solution for her that will your solution might be really good and it might quickly help her to become a successful radio jockey, but Sulochana won't be able to afford it, won't be able to engage with it. The relationship itself will not happen, right?
Right.
And so with Sulochana also, look at the difference, right? So in the long term, she expects for personal growth. Now, again, personal growth, like understanding, it's a abstract word, right? You want personal growth and you want recognition. But in the short term, again, we get something more actionable, right? Because in the short term, she's looking for opportunities to develop her skills for radio broadcasting, right? So while managing the household, so in a kind of a part-time mode, so I can kind of generate a design brief, you know, to meet her short-term skill, short-term requirement, keeping into mind her source of income, right? Uh, but but if you go to this is in this is there's a slight antithesis to what I've been talking about right now.
Hmm.
In Bajrangi Bhaijaan, though it's one of the five movies given by me, and it has an interesting story to say, but you will see that because it's a Salman Khan movie, right? And Salman Khan movies are always a hit, and uh, and they have a certain kind of a narrative construction. So a lot of
Yeah.
the human details that you see in the previous things, you will find it very vague here. Look at the source of income, right? Uh, look at motivations. Everything is
Mm-hmm.
kind of vague, right? Look at the motivation of Sulochana. You can actually identify a person through that, right? And if you look at her demography, understand her situation as a housewife, and look at her motivation, it seamlessly matches, right? But Bajrangi Bhaijaan kind of gives you a more kind of a cutout, more stereotypical kind of a thing. You know, occupation में लिखा है devotee, like because that's what the movie shows. Like that's his preoccupation in life, right? So devotee cannot actually be an occupation, but that's how
Mm-hmm.
it is. So we have a devotee social worker who does odd jobs and relies on community support, and her motivation is designed for driven by compassion and desire to build cultural divides. It's hard to design for somebody like this.
Mm.
You understand? This is
Yeah.
exactly what happens when a user persona begins to follow stereotypes. It becomes harder to find context to design for that person, or to design for that user group. Whereas when the word actually I'm using now is humane, right? When the user persona is more humane and not stereotypical, then you find it much more actionable, right? If you've done your research, you've done so many interviews, you've collected your insights, and then you've come up with something like this, and you can hand it over to a design team,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and an actionable insight can come out of it. It falls seamlessly into a design process. This does not,
Right.
right? Okay, so what I would want to do right now, I mean, there's been so much of talking that we're running out of time super fast. But still, I don't want it to be only talking. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually want the activity to happen.
Okay.
Um, so ideally, guys, any of these five movies, or for people who've maybe registered late, or for people who are joining us from overseas, we can think of it differently. We can think of take any movie,
Mm.
right? Take any movie, identify a character that you identify with. Okay, that is more important. Not a character that you're impressed by,
Yeah.
not a character that you find hot, you know, not a character you have a crush on, but a character you identify with,
All right.
right? So that is very important. That's the first requirement. Okay, so a movie, a character that you identify with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Quickly, I will keep the screen on so you can get the persona requirements, right? And you can use the internet to quickly dig out some researches, like
Mm-hmm.
about the age of the character in the movie. All these things you
Yeah.
don't have to kind of waste time for it. Uh, so where was I? A movie, a character that you identify with. You know, First we will make a quick persona sketch in the format I'm showing.
Mm.
Then some of us, I mean, because it's an online workshop and we have limited time, so we'll have to work through sampling and leading. Some of you, in 10 minutes, we need to volunteer
Mm.
to share your persona, uh, and we will collectively discuss
Mm.
that what kind of a
Yeah.
solution you would want to design for your persona, you know, based uh, based design for your character based on the persona you've made, right?
Yeah.
And once we decide what is the solution we will design for this character, that is when we realize that what is the preference thing that we need to make. You getting me? Hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then we will attempt as much as possible to kind of discuss what are the ingredients, how to go about making that preference box. Because that preference box, guys, is a is a real input to the design team. In the sense that these are the kind of characteristics that an app should have, should be able to kind of say, suppose if my in my learning preference, if I come out that most of my app users would be, say, dyslexic or ADHD, you know,
Mhm.
I would have it's a direct actionable input into my design team, maybe
Right.
more than any other aspects of their persona. You understand? That gives a very, very specific context. And in today's world, this context is becoming more and more important, guys. You know, like when we are designing spaces, when we are designing content, even say sexuality is such so important. Um, because I mean, because otherwise people just switching off, disengaging, right? Because there's a different kind of set of preferences. And in today's world, the best thing about today's world, which is challenging for the designers, is that there are options available everywhere,
Mhm.
right? So if you are not meeting its match like this, they will go somewhere else. They will experiment with something else, you know? Uh, that's the challenge. So can we, uh, the Sanskrit team, can you help me to do this 10-minute timekeeping?
Yeah, sure.
Uh, Yeah. So I'm shutting up now. I'm muting my mic and I'm
Okay,
just putting the persona on,
cool.
right? If you guys have anything to ask me, you can, right? Otherwise, in 10 minutes, we come back again. I'm
All
right
right.
here.
Okay. So starting off the timer now,
Sorry, not
and
this.
yeah,
Uh, okay, let me share.
and we can make a generic one, right? We don't have to use any software. You can make it on the pen paper itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely,
Perfect.
absolutely. Good to go?
Yeah, we're good to go. So we'll meet back again at I think 4:25. Hope that takes 10
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
Cool.
just 10
Perfect.
minutes.
So start the timer and yeah, we'll come back. Cool. Guys, if anyone has any questions, just drop it in the Q&A and Omen and I will pick it up and then definitely get those to Rahul sir. Guys, you can quickly drop your movies as well in the chat so that we know that everyone's kind of working on. It'll be like a quick interaction, and we'll get to know that everyone's awake. That's right, mine.
What's happening?
Yeah, I was just requesting everyone to just drop in the movies and the characters they're focusing on, so that we also know that
How much
okay, they're
how
working on
much time
something.
do we have?
Yeah, you still have 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes to go.
Okay, let's see
If
if
someone is ready,
some
they
of
can
them would have
definitely, yeah. If someone is ready, you can just raise your hand and we'll get to
absolutely.
know. Yeah,
After that, I have a question for Prachi.
yeah. Prachi is taking Gunjan Saxena. Apparently, she's not able to type in the chat. I'll just write it here. Prachi, if you could quickly raise your hand, I think so we'll also be able to interact with you.
It was Prachi who had asked about what is
The
like
EdTech
what
platform.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prachi, are you here with us? Could you please raise your hand?
No, that's okay. Let this
All right.
thing activity get
Yeah.
over. Yeah. Otherwise, people will get distracted.
Hello, sir. Actually, there are two Prachis. I am Prachi Kathiria, and the one who asked was another Prachi. And I am taking Gunjan Saxena.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Thanks for the clarification. Will we have some fun ones?
Suddenly, my chat is again not updating. I have to maybe shut it, open it. That's something's happening with the chat.
Hmm. Okay. Like till which
Yeah,
point
one.
is it visible for you?
Yeah, now I can see English. So I had to shut
Okay,
it
great.
and restart it. It's not
Okay.
automatically updated.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
Some interesting movies are being worked on.
Hmm.
So you're working on Interstellar.
Yeah. On the Cooper
Yeah,
character, on the main one.
cool.
Okay. Entire one class.
Cool.
Yeah. If
Who
anyone's ready,
is
guys.
who's going to
Yeah.
be the first one to share with us? Let me stop sharing the persona now
Hmm.
so that yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
much time. How do I do this quick sharing session?
Guys, if anyone wants to volunteer, just take up a quick, couple of ones, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, just maybe just if two people share, no,
Hmm.
that will be good enough for us to have a larger discussion.
Fair. Guys, anyone?
Archana,
Yeah.
Kaira from Dear Zindagi,
Yeah. I'll.
can you share?
Josh, now I've unmuted you. Are you able to hear
Hello,
us?
sir.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello. Good
Hello.
evening. Hi. So I really like this character from the time I've seen this movie. I mean, the topic was really good, talking on the emotional, mental health. So, so basically, this character who's a cinematographer and her age is around 25, 26. She lives in Mumbai, but she is basically from Goa. She's single and female.
So her pain points are basically she's doing good in her career, but she struggles a lot with the emotions and especially her relationships. And she goes for a therapy. So her short-term goals are to complete that therapy and be better at the emotions. Like she really struggles sleeping and everything. And long
What's a
term,
long-term goal? Long-term?
yeah. So she want to connect more with her family, have a good relationship, and be a more successful in her career. And for her
I like the
motivation,
way you separated the short term and the long term. Bang
because
on.
in front of me,
It's the short term is actionable.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the message I want everybody to have. Your short, once you make your short term goal, most of us don't make that into our personas. We have pain point, we have motivations, but we don't map our short term needs and people's immediate buying habits, immediate interaction. Why have you people come here to attend this workshop? Because there's a short term need through to which this workshop falls into place, meets it, right? So that's one of the things I want all designers to take home from one of the things that in a persona map short term needs that'll give you actionable results. Okay, carry on.
so her motivations are achieving self-sufficient. Like she's doing okay, but as I think you said in the start that you have worked in the film industry with some people, so that is really difficult to get into that. And her motivations are her friend who really encouraged her to like stay like active, focused, and she will go through whatever she's going through right now. I mean, it will end one day. Technologies, as she's a cinematographer, she likes to do some of the editings also. So she uses Lightroom, Photoshop sometime, and basic WhatsApp and Instagrams and all. And what else was there? Her behavior basically is kind of that she wants to first of all, career is something that she really looks forward, because that is the only thing that gives her peace. But she wants to have a relationship, but because of her childhood trauma she cannot have that. So those are the things which she wants to really like her belief, like her behavior comes from that she comes out of any relationship where she sees is getting serious. I think that the only thing I could do till now.
Fine, thank you so much. Only thing I need to tell you, Archana, is that category, and for I'll will expand the reason maybe after the next presentation. It's not just behavior; it's behavior and beliefs.
Yeah,
Because and in India, it's very important to map it because we have a country of various kinds of belief systems.
yeah,
You know, how many? If you look west of Bihar, if you look east of Bihar, on a Thursday, nobody starts anything auspicious. If you look on the north and west, Thursday becomes an auspicious day to start work.
yeah,
I mean, and when you're creating an event, when do you decide whether, how will you decide that whether Thursday is a good day for your event to begin or not? Right? In India, we and I'm interested in these things, Archana. I'm interested in these micros because this micros, no, it's like a her key more or less looks the same,
yeah,
but her key से her lock नहीं खुलता है.
yeah,
There are micro changes in the
yeah,
grooves of the key that will open that lock.
yeah, true.
And a good design is the one that will open the lock for your user. So that micro details are important. नहीं तो वो जेनेरिक चाबी से आप खोल नहीं पाओगे वो सब कुछ.
Yes,
ठीक है?
correct.
Thank you, Archana,
Thank you, sir.
especially for being
Thank
coming
you,
up and
Archana.
being the first one to share.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you.
Damini,
Yeah,
you want to have a go?
Navin, are you here with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we are able
Yes,
to.
Damini, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Okay, so basically, I really like the Shashi character from English to English. Uh, her age is like 40 and gender female, Pune, Pune, and she's married. मुझे उसका like ये कह सकते हैं I really like the personality traits like warm, caring, soft spoken, and determined as resilient, and modest yet ambitious kind of. And I really like the her like value belief, like believe in family tradition, responsibilities, and value respect and love in relationship. And the thing is, yes, hobbies and interest like cookie, like she loves to making laddus and cookies and all, and like her entrepreneurship kind of, and enjoy to learning new things, like when she started learning English in the start way. And like her goals is to gain confidence and independence, to be appreciated and respected by her family and society. And the behavior information, like day to day routine.
Damini, have you made that separation into short term and long term?
No, no, I just basically divided like behavioral information and like demographic information kind of, and the journey of her like English Wiglish. That's the thing, and the insights of the like Shashi personas.
Okay, perfect. But Damini, I slowly you once you start understanding
Mm-hmm.
now there are categories and you're filling the categories, right? As a designer, I want you to ask how each of those categories actually help you to design for that person, right? And that's
Yeah.
when you will realize that's where I've been stressing on this
Mm-hmm.
separation of pain points with long-term needs and short-term needs and a motivation as a separate column, you know.
Okay.
Okay, because there are guys that are I mean this is across this is not only about UX. I mean UX is now the backbone of even branding. When we kind of even we can't do branding today again without mapping a target audience, and personas become a very first step
Right.
towards understanding who our
Mm-hmm.
target audience is. Okay, right?
Right.
So uh, what I it's very important for you to understand is that we need to hit somebody contextually. Like there could be many things coming into my life, right? And I'm the same person, but there are certain things like Damini, like you will understand, but when you feel that, oh, this thing would have been more useful for you maybe 5 years ago, this is something that maybe you will find useful 5 years later. What will you use right now? That becomes the question. You are the same person. The design is still meeting you. It's still meeting you, but you meeting you 5 years later, meeting you 5 years ahead, not meeting you right now, right now. And that's why you're not engaging with that design. You're liking it, you're appreciating it, but you're not engaging with it. Right? That's why the short term is super important.
Hmm.
It will help you to understand your need today. Like to this month, what does Damini need? You understand? Because a
Yeah.
person's life is long and we can't design for that whole stretch. We design for a particular context, right? I mean, Swiggy might be very useful for somebody when like when the person is staying alone, working independently, can't cook food, and suddenly Swiggy is a go-to app. But maybe after the person gets married, starts getting more home cooked food and all that, maybe the Swiggy won't be that much of a go-to app as it is now today, right? Because the
Right.
context of the life has
Yes.
changed. And that is something that is very important. That is the kind of user persona I want you guys to be able to create or imagine in your head, where you intuitively understand कि इस context में इसको क्या देना है,
Understood.
right?
Right.
One more person wants to come up. Maybe why don't we discuss Interstellar? That will take us out of India.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Cool. All
and will
right.
give us a
So
futuristic new kind of context.
yeah,
Uh,
sure. So yeah, I'm talking about Cooper. I'm talking about Cooper, the main character within the film. So he's above 50 overall, and he's a widower. And in terms of the pain points, which we are able to see in the film, is that he is tasked to save the planet as of now. Okay, in the current situation, he's tasked to save the planet, and in doing so, one of the things he would require is he doesn't want to he's ready to sacrifice himself, but isn't ready to sacrifice meeting his family in the future when he comes back. So that is something which he will require in order to proceed with this mission. And The beliefs which actually give this character the power is that he's a natural born leader, as we have seen in the previous missions. So he's somewhat of that person who's able to lead a team. And this is also one of his short term goals, which is I just want to lead a team. I just want to prep the team. And that way the team can go. But then when his mentor tells him that, okay, we would require you in order for the mission to be successful, that kind of becomes his long term goal now. He actually has to go with the team, come back after finishing the mission, and still realize that okay, his family, or at least his daughter, who has promised to come back, is still alive. So I've kind of mixed all of these, and well, his motivations is again all the humanity on the planet, and specifically his family that he wants to see again. And in terms of the solution, I wasn't able to find much within the film because it is as complex as it can be. But then one of the things he remembers is that he's getting the memories of all that is happening on the planet, right? Specifically about his family. And if there could have been a solution wherein he was provided that at the time when it was happening, that would have been very preferable for him, because when he realized that, okay, everything is over now, what am I fighting for? But then at the end, there was redemption. He was able to get to see his daughter for the last time. And then he was motivated again in order to save Dr. Brandt again. So that is something of how I've created my persona overall.
Maran, thank you, because among the three who presented, you are the only one who, I mean, I know 10 minutes is very short, and I'm glad that in 10 minutes, a lot of you managed to create certain mappings. I would not call them full-fledged personas, but among the people who presented, and if there is anybody else who has thought of a solution idea, I would like them to put a hands up. Nabarun is the first one who kind of discussed a solution idea. And there, my instigation to Navarro now, if this was an actual design, suppose this was a hackathon that I was mentoring, and we've come through this first step, right? Now we actually need to start designing. And many people have this anxiety about when does design hinder, when there's too much of information and I cannot hinder, and I cannot design, right? Guys, pehle na, just firstly, guys, is beyond this workshop, beyond anything, don't in your head, I know it'll take time, but in your head, slowly stop the separation of design process and design. This separation is artificial. Design is a part of the design process, right? When you look at the full design process, we see the process and it's the same thing. फिर आप डिजाइन करोगे, फिर उससे भी आपको लाइव यूजर मार्केट फीडबैक्स आएगा जहां से आपको रीडिजाइन शुरू करना पड़ेगा, right? Like all the people who here who are saying that I want to be UI UX designers, why do you think an app has so many updates? Otherwise, by your logic of just designing, एक बार ऐप बना दिया खत्म हो गया डिजाइन, right? मगर फिर हर महीना क्यों अपडेट, हर 2 हफ्ता क्यों अपडेट? You know, why this fine tuning? You know, and like if you go through Android updates, I don't know how many of you are little, I mean, this is not even geeky, but slightly power users. एक बार phone update होने के बाद या किसी app update होने के बाद, you just check out, because if you are interested in this ecosystem, check out कि क्या-क्या updates में क्या-क्या fix हुआ है. You know, so you will understand that design and design process are the same. You start designing the day you got the client brief and you start crunching it. Everybody has their own process of crunching a client brief, right? And you crunch a client brief, you start your work, you start developing your context. You're already designing, you know. Yes, now there are two kinds of design. One is to give it a kind of a physical shape and form, whether it's a kind of a digital interaction, a physical product, you know, and normally, again, I will remind everybody here, they happen by different teams. The same product team that does the agronomic research, that does the user studies, is not the product team that is actually making that stuff. Right. So you have to understand it happens through different teams. And but at the same time, अगर हमको solution develop करना है, like for example Interstellar, and you realize that okay, you want to develop a solution that can be a kind of a a portal, information portal or something,
Yeah.
that can kind of live stream
Yeah.
the events at across time and space for Cooper.
Yeah.
Now, that is your thought in your head, right? That is not the solution you've designed. That's a thought in your head. Okay. Then you will have to look at Cooper more closely when you're looking at references, right? You look at Cooper more closely and see when Cooper is in a spaceship, when Cooper is traveling, what is his day like? When is his time to look at family? You know,
Fair enough.
uh,
Fair
is
enough.
it like is it like our lifestyle? कि हम लोग पूरा दिन office, we do office and come back, then we come and open Facebook or Insta and look at our phones and get that. Is that the way Cooper will do it, or whether so? And that is because once you get into that, how can Cooper consume what you are designing? Then only can you really start designing.
Right.
Am I being able to communicate to
Yeah,
you
for
guys?
sure. For sure.
And then now, and suppose you map this. Okay, now I'm kind of entering a wind-up mode because I know that it's online. We've already been speaking for 2 hours. We have 15 minutes. So I'm slowly I've tried to kind of summarize. But if there is at this stage also for the next 2-3 minutes, I think the window should be open for one more person who wants to say, okay, this is my character. Uh, you know, it's not right now. You have not yet formatted it into a persona. So it's like my character sketch. And one
Yeah,
hand
we
is
have.
up.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
Jyotipa in a second. I'll allow the mic. Yes, Jyotipa, you can go ahead.
Hi. So my character is from this one of the series called Itaewon Class, and the character name is Park Soer. He is a determined underdog in the series, and he's a male. He's in his late 20s to 30s. His occupation, he's a CEO of this small restaurant that is recently opened. Education is his he is a high school drop-off and a former convict. He lives in Seoul. His status is single and is an heterosexual. The pain point that he has is he has a significant hurdles in building a sustainable business uh, that he already has. He is under leadership pressure where he often feels emotionally drained and stressed. His needs and expectations are the personal needs are he needs justice for his father and a professional success. Belonging is he longs for belonging and some emotional connections. His short-term goals is to establish his restaurant, and his long-term goal is to have the loyalty of his teams and team members that works in his restaurant because he considers them as his family. And motivation is fulfilling his personal vision, building a legacy, and also getting justice for his father. The solution idea for him is to create something that will enable him to manage his work and build trust among his teammates. So this is the persona that I have created.
Thank you. I didn't get your name,
My name is Jyoti.
Jyoti. Jyoti, I especially like the last part you said, in the sense that you did not say that he needs an app or he needs this. You said he needs something that will help him to do that. That is also very important for all designers to keep in mind, because sometimes we have a prefixed solution already in our head. The biggest mistakes we do as designers, and that is what I have learned mentoring for years now, mentoring people who are working in my teams, to mentoring my students, to mentoring through webinars like this, that one of the things I've learned is that as designers, as human beings, there is a preconceived idea on our heads that this is what we want to do. We look at ourselves not as designers, but as app builders or website builders or product makers or visual makers. So because we have the self image about ourselves, We've already kind of put ourselves into a box, so we think that all the solutions will have to be made from the box itself. And there is a saying uh, like a carpenter will only think about solutions from their toolbox. आपका घर का कुछ हो गया, तो the problem might be something, but if you bring in a carpenter, he will only think from their toolbox. Electrician will tool from their toolbox. A plumber will think from their toolbox. But a designer will have to be able to think across toolboxes. So at this stage, at the early stage, I like that vagueness of something that shows a willingness to pick across various toolboxes, and that would make a very effective designer. Because sometimes you might need an app, sometimes you might need an app with a physical toolkit, sometimes you might need a app plus physical communities. Sometimes you might need a publication, or you might need a game instead of a regular. And there might be so many things that a person that might be the final hitting solution. But at the first stage, I like the fact that you've kept it open, right? So now the thing is, again, the question of, that is we maybe not able to achieve within the timeline of today, is to look at why that preference column. And now I'm going back because the other Prachi had asked me about also in an edtech context, what is too much information. So I'm going to run through another persona, not Rishabh, the one next below Rishabh, Monica's persona. And let's see whether that helps us a little bit here. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm back into presenting mode, sharing mode. Share window persona. Yeah. Okay. I'm moving down to looking at Monica's persona. Okay. Now, some of the times, and that's very common, that हम लोग demographics just लिखते हैं to fill up some things, and we write demographics truthfully. It's not that we lie or anything. We write demographics truthfully, but at the same time, we don't understand how they could actually help us to how they connect to the other parts of a grid. Okay, so if you look at Monica's personality, so here it is mentioned that her hometown is Chennai, and as a caste, she is a Dalit Christian, and her current location is Gandhinagar, right? Now, if you look at her pain point, she hates Gandhinagar for weather, food, fair skin fixation, and distance from Chennai. Does it not map into her demography? Can you see direct connections? This could extend into food,
Yeah.
right? It could extend into so many things, but there are these direct connections that actually are there between demographic details, and that is why we make demographic details, not for anything else. Right? That is this direct connections that will. So if you say what is demographic detail too much, there is nothing like that. If her sexuality was different, it could have maybe given her different pain points adjusting to her hostel, and other kind of pain points could have maybe come from there, right? So guys, that is one thing. Now the other thing is that now look at the behavior and beliefs of Monica that has been chalked out here, right? So and look at the last line.
Right.
Right. So I am not a politician. I am a designer. Right. Why do I need this information? Because through munching Monica's demography and her pain points, believes in all, helps me to understand that Monica, best way for Monica is to get education closer home, right?
Correct.
And because it even maps into this part, right? Because mostly with students or homemakers, we struggle to actually understand what is their paying potential. And you look at this, guys. This is I'm telling you something very important here. I forgot about this. Look at the heading here. What is the heading? Source of income paying potential. Right? Many of us don't make the split, right? Or say suppose I'm a marketing person, like just joined a corporate and I'm a marketing guy. You look at my income and I book hotels because that's a part of my job. You
Right.
try to design a good hotel app for me by looking at my income. Will you get it right? No,
No,
you
no, no.
won't, because I am not booking the hotels out of my income. It's a part of my company job, right? So
Right.
it is not just my income, it's my paying potential. My paying potential might be higher than my income, right? Or might be lower than my income.
Understood.
Get me? So in the particular context of where you are designing for, again, the word is context, you know. So the more you try to fine tune the context, then you'll realize that certain of the vague words, and that is why most young designers, I mean, that's my summary and that's my motivation also, that most young designers don't know, they, they don't feel that they need to really make detailed user personas because they don't know how it can directly benefit their design, you know. And
Yeah.
this workshop oblique interaction is just a small portal, guys. I mean, this is a bigger topic. I mean, we will do it more. I mean, a lot of it will come out maybe even in the hackathon, right? Um, because that it's a UI UX led hackathon, and so a lot. And I'm I think one of the judges of the Calcutta Center. So a lot of the people in the Calcutta Center will get that from me. But
Yeah.
and any given other opportunity, I would like to kind of come and drive home this message and actually kind of develop from a persona to a wireframe. If you can actually achieve that in an offline workshop, that will give a lot of confidence and a lot of context to young designers, because that is the bridge that they are unable to make. The workshop stays, the persona stays hanging. Persona and empathy map को कैसे wireframe में ले जाए, like in the UX context.
Yeah.
Once you can take it to the wireframe, most of the job is done. Once you
Right.
can make it to the wireframe, and then through a minor testing, a paper wireframe testing, run it through and kind of cross verify it, then you're on really good ground. You know,
Yeah.
And I think one of the crises of design today is that a lot of things are being designed. If you look at go to Behance, it's full of designs, right? Everybody is designing. There's so many portfolios, thousands, maybe lakhs of portfolios, God knows,
Yeah.
of Indian designers. You know, but how much of the design is actually being used? How much of the design in your portfolios is actually helping you to get a job? You know,
Right.
and that's my concern. you know because when you're looking, I mean, a lot of you will be applying, guys, right? A lot of you will be having portfolios, a lot of you will be applying for jobs, internships, grad projects, career switches. A lot of that will happen, guys. Always, one of the things most UX designers forget is that what is the UX of your portfolio?
Mm.
Have you thought about the persona of the person who's going to view your portfolio? If you are kind of a
Mm.
person who wants to get corporate jobs, for example, then the persona is a hiring manager, an HR head who is
Yeah.
munching 100 portfolios a day. you know
Right.
giving not more than 2 to 5 minutes per portfolio. Can your portfolio communicate to that person? What do you want to communicate to that person? If you are a
Mm-hmm.
designer who is looking for a good job in an agency, in a design firm, so the design firm in the peak period when internship is happening, you say, look, take a good agency like, say, Lollipop Design or any of these kind of, benchmark agencies where everybody applies, right? Um, uh, and so they are also munching maybe 50 applications a day. A corporate does it for the whole time, whole year, but agency will in the peak periods they will, but that they have a different catch. Most of them might not have dedicated hiring managers or
Mm.
outsource HRs. Most of them are agency heads themselves,
Right.
you know, going through the portfolios, or their immediate assistants who are doing other works, who are actually designers. They have even less attention. They might be giving you 1 or 2 minutes per portfolio max, sometimes 30, 40 seconds per portfolio, because they don't
Mm.
have the time, they don't have the bandwidth. Is your portfolio able to communicate in the 30, 40 seconds? Is your portfolio made for the context it is supposed to be made for? Again, the word context, you will slap me at the end of it. और एक बार context बोलूंगा तो, but that's the thing, guys. you know because
Right.
otherwise it's useless. You spend the money, you spend the energy, you maintain your behance, you're doing all the hard work. I want you to read somewhere. you know i
Yeah.
want i want designers to create designs that are implemented, that actually get to see the light of the earth. you know and, and from that point of view, and that is why I painstakingly also have friends who not only work in design firms but also work in very, very large corporates who design for, like what we say, universal design for people across the world, large things like, say, XD, my Adobe XD design head or a Microsoft design head. The, the kind of design at that scale. And one of the first things about designing at that scale is implementability. That it
Mm.
has to be implementable, right? And it has to be implementable. Not, today, the technology is such that implementation is not hindered by tech so much today. Gone are the days 10 years ago कि आपका developer will tell you that sir ये possible नहीं है.
Mm.
Those things are not so much of a hindrance today. Today, implementability is actually on whether it's going to hit the market and meet the user needs, or will the user interact with it?
Right.
Will it, is it technical, is it business was viable or not? You know, and this is only ensured when your product is hitting solutions bang on. And to hit it that precisely, you need to see it that precisely. Baba, you cannot see it generically.
Mm.
Right? It's like Arjun looking at the fish ka eye reflection. You have to be that precise. It has to be that micro, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and 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 that is why the detailing. When you say micro, immediately micro mein wo detailing word immediately comes with it, right, guys?
Mm.
And that is the only reason I'm pushing for it. And when somebody tells me, okay, what is enough information to design with, I would ask that person, okay, suppose you have to design for Harry Potter. Would you think that only reading one book of Harry Potter is enough to design for Harry Potter? Or would you want to read the second book too? Would you like to read the
Mm.
third book too? Right?
Yeah.
So that's the answer.
Mm.
You know? And would you ever think that, oh, reading the third book is stopping me from designing? No. Reading the third book is helping you
Keep
to
on.
design.
Yeah.
It is not stopping you. So once you change that thought logic in your head and 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 merge design process and design as the same thing. Like when I'm designing a persona, I don't think कि मैं design process कर रहा हूँ उसके बाद में design. I'm designing right there. I'm creating something. I'm creating something that I can pass it on to someone, and the person will feel the character, will communicate.
Yeah.
I'm creating something through which a designer can take up and start creating a physical solution with it. Now, that anything that I'm creating that can be used is design, right? That's the definition of design. That it
Yeah.
should be created, it should be useful. So how is a persona not a design? Right?
Fair, fair,
So
fair.
my wrapping up statement would be going beyond the persona and looking at the other stages of UX. Also, we have the same issue. Like persona, the base level problem, a more complex level problem comes with information architecture, a navigation flow. Those are things students hate even more. Persona तो फिर भी कैसे भी करके कर देते हैं, because there is an obvious human element to it and it's kind of replicatable. You know, don't make an information architecture. Don't make any navigation flow. But can you communicate how I will navigate your app? Can you communicate how the information, what is the hierarchy of information placed in your app and how the developer will make the retrieval system, right? If you can communicate that with another set of drawings, which is not a navigation flow, do it. Navigation flow is the easiest template for you to help me understand how to navigate the app. It is the easiest template through which for the developer to understand the navigation elements of the app. Right? But the real purpose is to make people understand how people will navigate the app. The real purpose is to make people understand how the information is archived in your digital system. Right? And once you know why is something being made, why is the persona made, why is the information architecture made, why is the navigation flow made, then half of the problems will go away. Like not half, I think all the problems will go away.
Right.
And because sometimes you will make something and people will criticize and saying, "Arey, information architecture banaya, isme ye missing hai, wo missing hai," because wo information architecture, you've not made it, you've copied a template. Somebody has told you this is what information architecture looks like. And this is what you should make. So you just made it. But if you knew what you want to communicate through it, then automatically you would ensure that the communication is embedded in it. And you would not need a mentor or a teacher or a juror to come and point out. Yeah. So I think now if you open up some questions, open up to the house. Actually, I've spoken too much.
All right. Yeah. Guys, if you have any questions for sir, I think we'll definitely have some questions regarding user personas in general and all the processes which he has talked about. So yeah, field is open. You can either drop your question in the Q&A or you can raise your hands and take those out.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, please go ahead.
You spoke about how to navigate and analyze and archive your processes that you do. I want to understand, how do you do it in a way like we did user personas? Is it like a too big explanation? Like, is it going to take too much time to make this? I don't know.
See, I mean, we can visit it again properly later. What I'll do is I'll drop in my LinkedIn profile link here, so that if some of you want deeper conversations, that can happen. I take time to reply, but I reply. So you might drop in a message to me on LinkedIn and see for 2 weeks I haven't replied, but that does not mean I will not. Yeah.
Sure.
So that's my preference. But yes, see, the common thing, what I was actually trying to say, the common thing is, obviously information architecture is much more complex, much more complex, and it's much more technical, Abhi, the confusion happens is because normally the same person who is making the information architecture is going on to develop the app, and the person feels that I already know what I want to do in the app, and why do I have to, make this information architecture? But actually, आप app नहीं बना रहे हो, आप एक Figma mockup बना रहे हो. So that is the first myth you have to break in your head, right? You are not making an app, you are making a mockup. That actually the developer will make the app, right? So when the developer is making the app, and that is when the app will really, like in a Figma prototype, you just have snippets of information, right? Just to show how it works. But in the real app, the real informations will be there, right? So imagine an app like Swiggy, for example, imagine how much information that is stored in an app like this, right? And the information architecture of it. Uh, I give students a very simple example of it. I mean, I move away from the digital world um, and give a very simple example of it. एक होटल का रिसेप्शन है. Okay, with that I think I should stop today. एक होटल का रिसेप्शन है. रिसेप्शन का एक लुक एंड फील है, right? पीछे there is a hotel का logo. There's certain way the desk is done. The person is wearing a certain kind of uniform, and there's an entire set of look and feel that you encounter the moment you go up to the reception desk, right? That's your UI, right? That's the touch. That's the interactive touch points in front of you, right? But now think of the function of the desk. Now, if you come to a very good-looking desk, and then you are asking for something and are not getting the service, then it will take you like 2 seconds to forget how good looking the desk is. You will start cribbing कि इसका service करा, right? So the main focus, so UI can take you in, but the real retention will happen through the UX. Okay, so that is also very important for you. Now, if I kind of break it up for you, right? अभी होटल के रिसेप्शनिस्ट जहाँ पे खड़ा है, अभी रिसेप्शनिस्ट को हम okay, where the hotel reception is, there is always a set of drawers there, right? And that there are standard queries that come in. Like mostly the certain things will be like, I have checked into the hotel, where are my room keys? I'm giving my rooms for that. Then there will be different level of queries. There might be some emergency provision stock somewhere. There might be, so there are maybe 12 drawers. What will you place in which drawer? Okay, that is the information architecture. See, suppose you put your hotel keys in the lowest most drawer. If that is the information architecture space you make. So every time the first general fastest query happens कि मुझे मैं सर्विस में रूम क्लीनिंग के लिए चाबी दिया था, प्लीज मेरा चाबी दे दो, उसको उतना he'll have to bend down. He will try to open the drawer. And the time when he's bending down, he is not maintaining eye contact. He is not seeing that whether 2, 3 other people have come into the desk. So just by the information architecture, you've made the system inconvenient. You get me? But if you actually understand how the desk is used, and okay, these are my first level queries, these are my second level queries, these are my emergency retrieval queries, and that logic helps you to know which drawer to keep what, right? Then you will see the efficiency of the person behind the counter automatically increasing.
Okay.
You getting me? So
yeah,
it's a simulation that you do in your head. Okay, this is how it's going to happen. And once how do you understand it? You understand it through the context. एक बार आप hotel जाओगे, थोड़ा सा research करोगे, you will see the general queries that happen. You will actually observe, how the retrieval mechanism works, and then you can design something to enhance it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jyoti. Yes, sir. Neil also has a question. Second.
Yes, Neil.
Yeah, Neil. Go ahead. Neil, are you able to hear us?
We are not able to hear you.
Okay. Cool. We just said that he raised by mistake. No worries. Cool.
Okay.
Cool. So
we have past 5 now. So what do you guys want to do?
the guys are still here. I mean, if you have any questions else, but thank you so much, Rahul sir, for taking this workshop. I'm sure we all have takeaways from there, but I'm sure we'll have questions which will be floating you in once you drop your LinkedIn there. I'll also drop it just a second.
Oh, let me.
Oh, okay.
Huh? You're dropping it?
Yeah, I'll drop it in. Not a problem. Yeah. So this is Sir's LinkedIn. If you guys kindly check it out. And yeah, thank you once again for taking this workshop. I think it was much needed for us in general.
And
And yeah,
no, so basically the reason why the LinkedIn profile is dropped is too because I realized that these are difficult conversations,
hmm,
you know, and so a lot of post-workshop conversations can be maybe more useful for our participants. And so if you have specific questions, if you want to have specific discussions, more than welcome. Yeah. Um, yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Nabarun.
yeah, for sure. As we're still here,
And
and just to end with everything, I would just like to showcase the Designathon slide once again to everyone so that everyone knows that, okay,
yeah,
this is something which is going to happen. So stay tuned for this. It's going to happen in the next year. We'll soon be revealing the dates. And also, we will be continuing with these workshops. And there are two workshops that are going to happen on the coming Saturday as well, which is the 23rd. So one is Mr. Jeetu Raut, and he will be explaining about Figma to the Lottie in terms of the animation segment. And we have another one as well. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I mean, overall, just thank you to everyone who has joined us on a Sunday at 3 p.m. So yeah, once again, didn't hopefully everyone didn't sleep, everyone got their, doubts clarified. And thank you once again, sir, for leading this.
yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye
Overall,
bye.
yeah, and we'll definitely stay connected, everyone. And can we
Yeah,
like just have like a quick picture? Second, I'll just
yeah, we
take a
can,
quick
of
picture.
course.
Yeah, guys, if you're
Yep.
still awake, just open your cameras. We'll take a quick picture.
I love the way you say if you're still awake.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that okay, everyone is there. That's all. Cool. Yeah, you can make poses. I mean, I'm not good with poses, but this is like the male, normal male thumb which you show just in every photo. Yeah,
It's cool.
cool. Perfect. All right. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
guys.
guys. Yeah, and feel free to just ask questions, stay motivated, and yeah, if you're going to sleep after this,
Yes. Be in touch.
see
Ta-da.
you. Be in touch, definitely, for sure. All right, cool. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you. Bye bye.